Hello, I am Todd Forrest, Arthur Ross Vice President for Horticulture and Living Collections at the York Botanical Garden. 2020 has been a remarkable year at NYBG. An extremely warm winter and cool weather in April and May provided the perfect conditions for an extended display of spring flowers. Our daffodils, lilacs, dogwoods, azaleas, and peonies were as lush and beautiful as any of us could remember. On the eve of summer in early June, we eagerly anticipated the next phase of the flowering year. Could our roses, daylilies, water lilies and lotus, and summer perennials possibly compare to the delights of spring? As you will see through some sumptuous images filmed in some of our most iconic spaces, the summer of 2020 was pretty special too. June is Rose Month at NYBG because June is when the Peggy Rockefeller Rose Garden bursts into full, glorious bloom. The great American landscape architect Beatrix Farrand designed the Rose Garden in 1916. The formal, triangular layout she devised was inspired by the Roserie de la Haye south of Paris. However, Farrand's design was only partially built in 1916. The garden wasn't completed until 1988, thanks to the generosity of David Rockefeller, who helped us fully realize Farrand's historic design in honor of his beloved wife Peggy. While the elegant formality of Farrand's design is something to celebrate, in summer, the Peggy Rockefeller Rose Garden is all about the roses. In the first few weeks of June, more than 3,500 individual rose plants, representing nearly 700 different species, hybrids, and cultivars, come into full bloom. During that first flush of flowers, the rose garden is a feast for the eyes and the nose, and a haven for anyone who simply wants to immerse themselves in nature's beauty. People are not the only living things that love a rose. Bees and other pollinators buzz from flower to flower, adding the most hopeful sound to the sensory experience of an afternoon amongst the roses. In recent years, NYBG gardeners have been refining our horticultural techniques so that the rose garden is as welcoming to bees as it is to people. While the roses peak in June, most continue to flower throughout the summer and into the fall, stopping only after migratory birds have moved to the south and a hard frost signals that winter is near. Like many American gardeners, NYBG has a love affair with the daylily. Our collection is planted along Daylily Daffodil Walk, a gently curving pathway that passes through the magnificent spruces and pines of the Arthur and Janet Ross Conifer Arboretum. Our daylilies have a distinguished history. Between 1911 and 1948, NYBG scientist Arlo Stout made more than 50,000 crosses between various daylilies in an effort to create cultivars as hardy as they are comely. The results of those crosses include Theron, the first red daylily, and nearly 100 other introductions. Stout's legacy continues today. Each year, the American Daylily Society gives the Stout Silver Medal to the most outstanding new daylily cultivar. Our collection now features more than 300 different daylilies, including most of Stout's introductions and many of the Stout medal winners. Arranged by color along Daylily Daffodil Walk, these cheerful horticultural confections create quite a kaleidoscope when they begin flowering in late June. Although each flower lasts for only about a day, daylilies continue to produce flowers for almost an entire month, stretching the spectacle well into July. Seasonal Walk shines in spring, summer, and fall. After spring's daffodils, tulips, and early perennials fade, they are replaced by a bright mix of summer bulbs, grasses, and perennials. Visitors, including black swallowtail butterflies and bees, are drawn in by the artful blend of colors and textures of phlox, ornamental onion, echinacea, golden lace, and other summer favorites Dutch garden designer Piet Oudolf included in Seasonal Walk. Oudolf used only herbaceous plants in his design. There are no shrubs or small trees, and featured blended masses of bulbs, grasses, and perennials that return each year without having to be replanted. The effect is a soft, studied informality that lies somewhere between the wildness of a meadow and the mannered orderliness of a more traditional perennial garden. The awesome scale of the 250-acre New York Botanical Garden can make it difficult at first for home gardeners to see the many connections between their backyards and our historic landscape. We know that while our canvas might be grander than most home gardens, we are all driven by the same passion for plants and gardening. The Home Gardening Center is where we try to connect directly with the gardening public. The heart of the Home Gardening Center is the Pauline Gillespie Gossett Plant Trials Garden. This is where we plant blocks of different sunflowers or agastache or hydrangeas or rose mallows or irises or other garden favorites to see which we like the most. Some plantings change each year, while others remain for several years so we can get a better understanding of plant performance over time. In future years, we will use the Plant Trials Garden to determine which native plants pollinators prefer. The Home Gardening Center also includes small-scale model gardens designed to give our visitors ideas they can replicate at home. The grass garden combines ornamental grasses with containers bursting with tropical plants that would spice up any urban terrace. The summer garden features a raucous mix of dahlias, which never fail to elicit gasps of incredulous appreciation. The ferns and other shade-loving plants in the Rodney White Country Garden give gardeners who live in the wooded areas a sense of what they can grow in deep, dry shade. The Home Gardening Center changes significantly from season to season and year to year and should be part of any visit to NYBG. The Jane Watson Irwin Perennial Garden is the most richly layered and intensively cultivated display at NYBG. Lyndon Miller, celebrated advocate for urban horticulture and long-serving garden trustee, has been working with garden horticulturists since 1987 to design and refine the perennial garden. Trained as an artist, Lyndon masterfully combines foliage color, plant form, and flowers to create an alluring tableau that progresses seamlessly from season to season. Clipped hedges, carefully pruned shrubs, and well-placed tutors, which Linden playfully refers to as domes and minarets, work in conversation with the continuously changing process of flowers, all arranged harmoniously by color. Very little is left to chance here. Perennial garden is a bit of a misnomer, an understatement. Linden uses the entire plant kingdom, it seems. Small trees, shrubs, perennials, bulbs, annuals, and tropical plants to create 4 seasons of beauty in the perennial garden. Summer is when some of our favorite perennials and annuals steal the show. Daylilies, balloon flowers, zinnias, morning glories, dahlias, and black-eyed Susans seem to be competing for our attention. All of this summer color attracts all manner of living things. Chipmunks, goldfinches, eastern tiger swallowtail butterflies, and ruby-throated hummingbirds find sustenance amidst all the beauty. Hummingbirds are drawn particularly to the salvia and other seasonal color dotted throughout the garden. On some late summer days, more than a dozen hummingbirds can be seen flitting from flower to flower. The richly complex perennial garden is a fitting foil to the Victorian grandeur of the Enid A. Howe Conservatory. Like the conservatory, it is a place where the beauty of plants could be celebrated throughout the year. The courtyards of the Enid A. Howe Conservatory are home to a secret, protected world, where improbably lush and colorful gardens emerge from placid pools of dark water. These are the courtyard pools, home to the garden's aquatic plant displays. There are 2 rectangular pools, one in each courtyard. The pool in the northern courtyard is dedicated to the hardy water lilies native to cool climates. These are the water lilies Claude Monet planted and painted at his garden at Giverny. Their leaves are glossy green, and their flowers, which are held close to the water surface, tend to be white or in the warmer colors of the spectrum. The southern pool is where we display water lilies from tropical climates. Unlike their hardy cousins, tropical water lilies hold their flowers on tall stalks above the water surface. These flowers often have purple, blue, or magenta tones. Some tropical water lilies have leaves patterned with striking splotches of burgundy or chartreuse. The pools are ecosystems unto themselves, complete with koi, frogs, ducks, and armadas of iridescent dragonflies and damselflies that hover above the water surface. The grandest water lily of all is the giant Victoria water lily from the Amazon. The leaves of Victoria can reach almost 6 feet across and turn straight upwards at their edges. Victoria generally flower at night, and their powerful fragrance attracts beetles that serve as pollinators. Lotuses grow in both pools. Their pale pink or white flowers are held far above their glaucous leaves. Lotus leaves are hydrophobic. Water droplets bead up and run right off their surfaces. While summer is when the courtyard pools reach their peak, the water lilies and lotuses remain beautiful into autumn and should be on any fall garden itinerary. The 3.5-acre native plant garden in the heart of NYBG blurs the line between horticulture and nature. A canopy of ancient native shade trees, preserved during the construction of the garden, creates a diversity of habitats and provides respite from the summer sun. The native plant garden's extensive plantings of native woodland, meadow, and wetland plants are arranged around a sleek central water feature, which really comes alive as temperatures soar in summer. Wherever you stand in a native plant garden, you can hear the sound of water cascading over the bluestone weirs that divide the water feature's 3 arched pools. The 2 lower pools, unplanted to provide a calm, reflective surface, are home to frogs, turtles, and the occasional wood duck. The edges of the upper pool provide the perfect conditions for a variety of wetland species, from pitcher plants to pickerelweed. The insects that flock to the pools, and the birds and bats that feed on these insects, add life and drama to the garden throughout the summer. Flashes of summer color appear in the plantings around the water feature. Bugbane, culver's root, bee balm, woodland lilies, cardinal flowers, phlox, and skullcap are just a few of the native plants that flower after the rush of spring has passed. Summer is when the grasses and forbs in the meadows take center stage. It had been a mass of seemingly undifferentiated green, and spring becomes a tapestry of colors and textures. From above, the tawny spikes of tufted hairgrass, the mauve orbs of bee balm, and the sunny streaks of black-eyed Susan and goldenrod appear almost as bold brushstrokes on an impressionist canvas. The meadows just get prettier as the long days of summer transition to the short days of autumn. In fall, they are one of the best places at NYBG to see migratory songbirds. People flock to NYBG to experience our masterfully designed gardens and displays, thoughtfully curated plant collections, and captivating seasonal exhibitions. But perhaps the most unique and wonderful part of the garden is the 50-acre old-growth Thain Family Forest at the center of our historic landscape. Used as a hunting and fishing ground by Native Americans, miraculously preserved through the rampant growth of the surrounding city, and carefully stewarded by NYBG scientists and horticulturists since 1895, the forest is a magical microcosm of the bounteous nature that sustains human life. The best time to visit the forest may be on the hottest, most humid day of a New York summer. Seconds after passing through an entrance, the air feels cooler and the pace of life feels far removed from the frenzy of New York City. Filtered sunlight shimmers through the high canopies of venerable trees that sprouted in unplowed soil before our nation was born. The slightest breeze causes branches to dance and sway. The occasional call of a songbird reminds us that we are visiting someone else's home. We feel welcome, fortunate. The deep, refreshing quiet of the forest is broken only by the tumult of the Bronx River as it rolls through its gorge, carving an ever-deepening chasm into Bronx bedrock. Home to fish, waterfowl, and the occasional American beaver, the Bronx River is New York City's only freshwater river. Splendid in all seasons, the river seems to change every day in the summer. Long dry spells reveal its rocky bed. Passing thunderstorms create a roiling torrent that would daunt even the nerviest kayaker. one never feels farther away from the exigencies of modern life than when on a stroll through the Thain Family Forest. That soul-cleansing remoteness is all the more remarkable when, eyes lifted to an owl's perspective, you see directly that the forest is a tenacious green islet in a rising sea of urbanity. NYBG's founders chose wisely when they decided to build our garden around this remnant of nature's past. We were thrilled to be able to welcome visitors back to NYBG this summer, and have greatly enjoyed reconnecting with old friends and seeing new faces over the past few months. After weathering some very hot, humid weeks in midsummer, we welcome the shortening days and the cooling nights of late August, which signal that fall is on its way. It is hard to beat fall at NYBG. Thank you for joining us on this journey through NYBG in summer, and for all that you do to support the important work of this remarkable institution. We hope to see you soon at the garden.